aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, I'm going to be going over and showing you guys how to optimally get like a turn 2 Archeops summoning star off as fast and as efficiently as possible, and kind of my thought process and how I kind of map it out when I'm playing Lugia. And this had come to me because I had a local community member ask me and go, hey, sometimes I struggle only getting one Archeops on the bench, or sometimes I just struggle finding any, maybe I'm mapping it wrong, and it kind of made me think, after explaining my thoughts to this person, I was like, I should make a video about this. This is something that I feel like might need talked about. But before we get into a sample deck list here to go over a couple things, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, drop a comment down below, ring the notification bells. I really do appreciate your guys' support already. Let's jump into that deck list. Alrighty guys, and here we are with our deck list. The first thing I would like to go over is Lugia V-Star's ability and what it does. It has an ability called Summoning Star. During your turn, you may put 2 normal type Pokemon that don't have a rule box from your discard to your bench. So you're trying to obviously do 2 Archeops. And what Archeops does is it has the ability called Primal Turbo. Once during your turn, you may search your deck up for 2 special energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. You could do this like for each Archeops, which that's 4 special energies. That's insane. Now, you're thinking, okay, how am I going to get the Archeops in the discard pile? Well, we have tons of ways to do it. Some of the more simple ways is, obviously, Professor Brunette, search your deck for 2 cards, discard them, shuffle your deck. We also have Professor's Research. If they're naturally in our hand, discard your hand and draw 7 cards. We also have Ultra Ball. You know, you can only discard if you discard 2 other cards from your hand, so just discard like 2 Archeops or whatever, or 2 something else into like discard maybe an Archeops or another card to find another Archeops and then research or something. There's a lot of different small mapping that you can do to get there. We also have Capturing Aroma to find them. We have Messagoza to also find our Archeops here. But it's how you get them in the discard pile is what's important. You can research them in there, Ultra Ball them in there, Professor Brunette them in there, or, and kind of your lesser option, I would say, you can read the wind, but you try really hard to only ever do this if you're going second. So if your opponent goes first and then you go second, you more than likely end up reading the wind at least once in the game, which isn't a bad thing at all. You just discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. So things like that can really help get them in there. You can like Lugia V to find your Professor Brunette and stuff. So that's kind of how you're trying to get the Archeops into the pile. And in the video and the gameplay stuff, I'll go over like a little bit of the small mapping and my thought process for all this. So let's jump in to those gameplays. Alrighty guys, and here we are with some of our gameplay. Now, I've recorded multiple different instances or different just situations where I've been in where I've been able to get the setup very quickly and just kind of cut them to where it's more important or where I want to talk. So in this one, I'm playing against Carlos Lugia. I've kind of already taken a turn already, and I don't really have too much in my hand here. All I have is Professor's Research and Jet Energy, but my opponent judges me, so now I'm going to do Lugia V-Star, Lugia V, Professor's Research, Ultra Ball. So now something important to note is if you don't have any Archeops into your hand, what you literally can just do here is just evolve into Lugia V-Star, Lugia V for Professor Brunette, and then discard, and you already have them in ready to go. Now, however, I already have the 2 Archeops in here because what had happened in this one is I naturally just had them in my hand, and I was just able to just go Ultra Ball, discard both of them. So I got very lucky with this one. But now you're going to kind of see me here just grab a couple things and just kind of start getting set up a little bit. We're going to grab like Drapion because I don't need it. So I'm just thinning my deck 1 card, and I'm just going to Professor's Research. I could have grabbed something I might need and then benched it. But now, mind you, I don't really care that much about getting in here because I know I'm going to be able to get a KO on this Arceus because I'm literally just going to go put 4 energies onto this Lugia, hit 220, and then go into it. Now, this one is also a pretty simple one here. I'm just ended up having Professor Brunette just in my hand. Just discard 2 Archeops. I already have Lugia V-Star, so I'm just going to, you know, put both of these here, bonk, and then I'm going to retreat out of my, Jet Energy up. You could also retreat out of it if you want to, but just Jet Energy up, Primal Turbo. We're going to put some energies and just get the donk onto our opponent's Lugia here. Unfortunate for our opponent, they couldn't get anything going, but sometimes that does happen. So things like that are the kind of more simplistic ways you can do it. There's just the natural ones where you're just like, I don't have to do much work to find them. Now this one here is a little bit different. you can see that I don't really have much going on in this hand. I have Lugia V-Star, which is great, but I don't have anything else. So we do end up hitting tails here. Now, it's important that you try to get 2 Lugia V down as fast as possible, because you want to be able to kind of save yourself from this dunk against certain decks. Like against Marida, you want to get 2 Lugia V down. But against Lost Bucks, I don't care too much, because the worst thing that can happen is they're just going to hit me for 110. But it's still always safe to do so. So I do end up grabbing the second Lugia here. Now, mind you, I have Lumineon in my hand, and my opponent knows I have Lumineon in my hand. So now I'm in a position where I can just evolve into Lumineon V. I kind of cut there because my opponent takes like a 2-minute long turn. But I'm at a position where I can just evolve into Lugia V-Star, Lumineon V, Prime Professor Brunette, discard 2. And that's like my kind of one of my more favorite ways to get set up, is just being able to go, all right, Lumineon V, Prime Professor Brunette, discard 2 Archeops, already got them, ready to go. But sometimes it's not quite that simple. Sometimes you have to like Ultra Ball, discard a couple things to find something else, and then to, you know, Mesagoza something to hopefully find it. And it is a little bit of a gamble deck from time to time because of that happening. All right, and this one I do end up getting to go first, which is really ideal. You do want to go first as much as you possibly can when you play Lugia, because it stops you from Read the Wind. And like I said, Read the Wind is not a bad attack by any means, but you want to be able to kind of get 2 Archeops onto your bench and evolve into Lugia V-Star and stuff as fast as you possibly can. So I end up having to start with Stone General here, which is not ideal at all. But I'm able to kind of nest ball and find a Lugia V at least, so I can hopefully evolve that. Now, something also important to note is that a lot of the times when playing Lugia, it's important to sometimes hold your stadiums, especially if you're playing against a deck that plays heavy Path. There have been a lot of games where I'm like, okay, I could get Archeops this turn, but my opponent might play Path this turn, so I'm just going to hold my stadium in my hand and then just wait 1 turn, because I'm going to go, okay, Path, I'm going to go Mesagoza, bump Path, because the only really ability we care that much about in Lugia is Summoning Star, because majority, if not all, of your games are won by you doing Summoning Star. So I do end up Mesagoza, find the Archeops here, and then I nest ball and find Lugia. And the reason I do that is because I know my opponent can't evolve and he can't attack anything right now. There's nothing he can really quite do going into this, but I do play the Jet Energy to Jet Energy up my Lugia. And the reason I do that is because if I get Iono'd or anything of that nature, I will be able to just I'll be able to Read the Wind and try to discard more cards. But my opponent does Escape Rope here, but that is why I put the Jet Energy on that turn. So we're going to evolve, and we're going to Mesagoza, and I believe we hit heads. I'm not quite sure. I don't quite remember. Oh, we do actually whiff on this one. So, and then I believe I attach an energy to my Lugia, and then I Professor's Research. Now, mind you, this is kind of one of those bad things where, like, okay, I'm discarding a penny, which feels a little bad, but I find the Ultra Ball into another Archeops. So now I'm set up in a position where I'm like, all right, we found the cards we need. We're good to go. So we are going to Capturing Aroma here, find Squawkabilly. And the reason I grab Squawkabilly is because I just want something to discard to this Ultra Ball to find something, right? So I am going to Ultra Ball, grab some things. We're going to grab our Tyranitar here. And the reason you grab Tyranitar is just... Oh, no, that's right. I do grab Pumpkaboo. And the reason I grab Pumpkaboo is because I believe I discard Mesagoza because I don't want him to find any of his evolutions. So I'm going to Primal Turbo onto my Sojourner, and then I Pumpkaboo and discard the Mesagoza. It was a little greedy, but you don't necessarily ever need to do that a lot of the times. So now this one's another just simple one here. We are kind of set up in a position where it's evolve into Lugia, Professor Brunette, and that's just kind of the game. But like I said, there are a lot of times where your hand doesn't have the way to find cards. So you need to like Iono and then like kind of map out in your head, okay, what are my odds of like hitting an Archeops or hitting a way to find Archeops to be able to discard that Archeops? Because if you play Iono, well, now you can't hit the Professor Brunette if you draw into it, right? So now you need to like really hit into like Capturing Aroma, Archeops, or like maybe another Capturing Aroma or something in an Ultra Ball to be able to do that. Because then you can just go, all right, find 2 Archeops, discard, go. But lucky enough, I do end up finding the things I need. and I'm able to just evolve Primal Turbo, and I do end up running away with that game. And just the pure strength of, all right, I have everything set up as fast as I possibly can. I'm attacking this turn, or I'm attacking, and I'm taking a knockout, is really strong, and Lugia can kind of run away with games by doing that. Now, this is really tough because Mischievous Lock says as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, basic Pokemon in play have no ability to accept Mischievous Lock. We don't care because Lugia V-Star isn't a basic. Now, mind you, it does hurt because Lumineon. So if this Klefki is in the active spot, I cannot Lumineon to find Professor Brunette. It won't work. So I now need to get really lucky and just find the cards. And this is where you're kind of trying to figure out, okay, what are my odds? What should I be discarding? What should I be attaching? Should I bench the Tyranitar? Like, what are you thinking here? Now, the Path of the Peak, you can deal with that later. Right now, you're trying to unbrick this hand, right? I do draw into an Arceus, which is really great. So I'm like, okay, bench Tyranitar, attach, discard, and I need to find a lot of cards here. So now, actually, I'm going to pause this for a second because I want to talk about something. This specific hand here is very interesting because you can see down here I have 2 Ultra Ball, Mesagoza, and Capturing Aroma. Now, the reason I go for Capturing Aroma first is because I can just get lucky and then hopefully hit heads, maybe grab another Archeops, or grab maybe the Lugia V-Star. Now, if I find Tails, it's really unfortunate, and I've kind of just not necessarily wasted the Capturing Aroma here, but I have slowed it down and made my life a little bit more difficult, because now what you're trying to do is you're going to want to Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, find Archeops, play the Mesagoza, try to hit Mesagoza, and if you whiff on that, then you Ultra Ball, discard the other rest of the cards in your hand to find Lugia V-Star. And you discard a lot of resources that way, but sometimes you just have to do that. So I couldn't quite remember how this plays out, but we'll just see what happens here. So I do end up getting heads, which is very lucky. So I'm able to just, all right, we can Ultra Ball away these. So my thought process is here, okay, I can't evolve. Now, had I gone first, that was what you'd want to do, but I can't. So I'm going to read the wind, discard these. So now I'm going to set up in even a better position. I have double Stadium in my hand to be able to just remove that Path of the Peak, and I can Ultra Ball to find, 1 Archeops. The unfortunate part is if I do Ultra Ball, though, I'm like, okay, Ultra Ball, discard energy, discard, Professor's Research, and then find it that way. And then I have to discard again, right? So if I fail this Mesagoza, I'm in a situation where I need to discard, 4 cards to be able to do this. And I can't play the Lumineon I just drew because Klefki's in the active. I can't boss anything up to get the Klefki out because I can't Professor Burnett with Lumineon. So I end up getting very lucky here, and I hit heads off this Mesagoza, and I do end up grabbing a Lugia V-Star, because I did discard 1 earlier with Professor Research, so I'm set up okay here. But sometimes that doesn't happen, and you need to be able to really just manage your resources properly and realize which ones you need in what matchups. Because in this right now, in the situation, my opponent only has 2 cards in hand. I don't really care. I'm going to actually go back for a second here. He only has 2 cards in hand. So I don't genuinely care about his hand size. I want it to stay small. So trying to keep boss is important because I can go boss up your Kadabra and take the KO on the Kadabra and then just discard everything else. I don't really need Lumineon right now. I don't really need Collapse Stadium, so those are 2 cards you could probably discard. You don't need Professor's Research, and you could always just discard whatever you grab off of Ultra Ball because you could just grab a dead card. You could grab Squawkabilly or Pumpkaboo if you don't need that anymore. You could grab Radiant Serena if you don't need that in this matchup particularly. So there are things you can grab, an additional Archeops that you don't even, because you already have 2 in the discard pile, but sometimes you could just discard them anyway, just as extra Ultra Ball fodder, and that is really strong. So the things that are kind of important to note is just being able to manage and understand what your resources are and what things you need in certain matchups that you can discard to get your Archeops into your discard pile, because when you play Lugia, there are times where you need to be very like reserved and hold back a lot of your things, hold back like your energies and not discard them, especially against matchups where like sort of like stall, where they're trying to like kind of move your stuff around. You have to be able to use a lot of your energies, because something important when you're playing Lugia is you need to be able to keep track of how many energies you have left and what you have access to throughout the game. So things to kind of pick on. That one's like a very hard one to get to, and it does take a long time to be able to understand what resources you need and when you might need them. Alright, so this matchup here is a little unfortunate. We do end up starting with Radiance Arena, which isn't ideal. I'm going to hit this MegaBlitzz first, and the reason I hit MegaBlitzz is because I'm hoping that I can just get a Lugia V off of it, and then just never even have to use the Nest Ball, because I can just Ultra Ball it away later. But I don't. So the reason here I actually don't Ultra Ball or discard like 2 single strike energies or anything is because I don't want my opponent to know that I have Ultra Ball in my hand. I want to just wait and try to do it next turn. A lot of people are like, well, I have it now, just do it now. Don't. Because then you can sit there and be like, okay, well, my opponent just found this. I'm going to Iono or judge them because now they can't find it, right? Now I've disrupted them. So hold the Ultra Ball in your hand, because now I'm set up in a position where I can just go Ultra Ball, discard single strike energies, put those back in with Urn of Vitality later, get Lugia V-Star, evolve, Professor Brunette, discard 2 Archeops. So it's things like that where you're just like, okay, I understand that it's in my hand now, but just hold it, because it's a little bit of a head fake game, right? You don't want your opponent to know that you have the Ultra Ball, and you can't even evolve your first turn anyway, so just hold it. So I end up drawing here, and we are able to hit this MegaBlitzz again. So ideally, if I hit heads, then I could just grab, you know, a Lugia V-Star and go that direction. And I end up grabbing, I think I grab Archeops here. Yeah, I grab Archeops, and the reason I grab Archeops is because I want to retreat out of this Radiance Arena into my Lugia V. I'm going to Ultra Ball, discard a single strike energy and an Archeops to find Lugia V-Star, and then I'll Professor Brunette and discard 2. Now, if I fail that MegaBlitzz, that's what we would have done. Discard the 2 single strike energies, put them back in later, and just gone that direction, right? Gone that route with that. And that's something that a lot of people don't quite understand with Lugia, is that sometimes you have to be a little aggressive in what you're discarding. There are times to push in and fall back. Push in and fall back. And you need to be able to understand those times. And it does take a little bit. And one of the hardest parts about Lugia is not only conserving and understanding when to like place your energies and keeping them in the deck and keeping track of them and reserving things like that, but the other hard part is when to promote things, because retreating in Lugia isn't a thing you want to do a lot of the times, because you have very limited access to a lot of energies, and Lugia doesn't play Escape Rope and it doesn't play Switch. We don't play those cards. So being able to know when to promote things and when to do, like when to promote and when to retreat, is very important. And retreating should be very far and few in between. You shouldn't be doing it as often. But in that situation, I have Radiance Arena in my active spot, and I can't attack with it because I don't play a Grass Energy in the deck, which you never will. So in that situation, I'm like, well, I need to retreat out of this so I can get a KO this turn. Now in this matchup, I am playing against Roaring Moon, one of the new cards that came out in Paradox Rift. And very interesting to note about this is that I have never played against this matchup. This is actually the first time I played against Roaring Moon at all when logging on. So I'm like, all right, I gotta like really figure out what the heck I'm doing here. And in this situation, I need to get a Lugia V down and in the active spot. And I don't really need Cobalion because I can hit 230 with Tyranitar pretty comfortably. Cobalion wouldn't be bad in this matchup by any means, because you just do a little more damage to their, their Roaring Moons. However, it's not necessary per se. I would say if you're in the situation, discarding it is kind of like if you have to, you have to, but try not to if you can help it. And I kind of cut my opponent's turn because he just pops off and goes off for about 2 minutes there, and he's able to like Dark Patch and just slam a bunch of energies everywhere, and Earthen Vessel, and doing like just the turbo dark thing, And he passes to us, and I will say, Pokestopping in Lugia is not ideal. It's not great. You're not going to hit a lot of the times, and sometimes you discard resources, and it feels really, really bad. So, in this moment, I'm going to like, all right, I need to grab Archeops. I need to be able to discard things, so I'm going to hit this Pokestop and just try. And I whiff. Iona, DTE, Professor's Research. Those are resources I could have used, and they're gone, right? So now I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, I need to try to do something here. And I'm like, well, I can Luminion V and try to find like Professor Brunette or research. Now this is very like a specific situation because I don't have Lugia V-Star in my hand. So I'm going to actually get research to try to find it. And I get lucky enough where I'm like, all right, Mesagoza, Evolve, and I'm going to try to hit this Mesagoza just to try to get some stuff out of the deck here and Ultra Ball them away or what have you. So in that situation, like I said, a lot of the times Luminion V Professor Brunette is one of the big things you'll end up doing a lot of the times. But there are moments where you're like, well, Professor's Research actually gives me more options, because if I go Professor Brunette and I just discard 2 cards and he goes Boss KO my Lugia V, I'm out of this game. I've lost. There's no way I'm coming back in. So it's something important to note of that nature. It's just that in this situation here, that Professor's Research is really important because, and I want to go back to this spot here, because when you go Luminion V and you look at my hand, I have Urn of Vitality and Vigor Energy. I can't really do anything with that, right? If I grab Professor Brunette and just discard 2 cards, I can't evolve. If he goes Boss KO on Lugia V, there's nothing I can do. So I need to really understand my resources. Iona doesn't really do anything because he already has 6 cards in hand. So I'm like, okay, Professor's Research gives me the most options possible. And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. That is just card games. But I really hope this just kind of helped you guys out in understanding a little bit of the mapping process when you're trying to get these double summoning stars. Now, there are games where you are only going to get 1 Archeops. Those don't happen all that often, but sometimes you will have to take those options and just, you know, have a 1 summoning star Archeops, and it feels bad, but you can make it work and it can manage. And I've won multitudes of games by doing that. It was in my very first video I actually ever uploaded to YouTube, was me just talking about Lugia V-Star and how I feel like it's the best deck to be climbing the ranked ladder with. And in a lot of those games, I only got 1 Archeops down. So you can win by doing that. Alrighty, guys, let's jump in to that outro. Alrighty, guys, I hope that that truly helped in just being able to go over the summoning stars and sometimes how simplistic it can be, where you have everything you need in your hand with your barrettes and your V-Star and like all that stuff. But there are times where it can be very complex and you need, you know, you use 3 capturing aromas, you've used 2 ultra balls, you've hit the Mesagoza and failed, and you're like, hit this Professor's Research, hope to find things because you still need more. I get it. I've been there. It's truly frustrating at times. But you are able to dig yourself out of it a lot of the times. It is possible. Alrighty, guys. If you haven't yet, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, drop a comment down below, ring the notification bells. I really do appreciate your guys' support. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Peace!